Hi there! Today I want to show you how to knit a star ornament. It may look complicated, but you will see that it's really much easier than it looks. So let's get to it. We begin by casting on 6 stitches using a long tail cast on method. And next we are going to distribute our stitches onto 3 double pointed needles with 2 stitches per needle. 1, 2, 1, 2, and the third one is already here. Now we are going to arrange our needles to be knit in the round, and our first round is going to be a knit round. So we simply are going to knit all stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Our next round, round 2, we're going to knit 1 stitch and make 1 yarn over. Knit 1, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over. Next, once again, knit 1, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, and the last 2 repeats. Knit 1, yarn over, knit 1, and the last yarn over. Next round, round 3. Once again we are going to simply knit all stitches. Now we have doubled the number of stitches, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Next round, round 4, is going to be an interesting round. So we begin by binding off 1 stitch. To bind off, you just kind of like slip, and then knit 2 together. So next, you kind of can see this middle stitch here. So what we're going to do with this next stitch is we are going to knit into the front leg of that stitch, and then we are going to knit again into the back leg of that stitch, making 2 stitches out of 1. This kind of increase is called a KFB increase. And the next thing we are going to do is we are going to slip this stitch from our right hand needle over these 2 stitches like this. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to leave this first stitch on our right hand needle, and we are going to use the second stitch we just made and bind off the following stitch, and bind off 1. Now we have come to another central stitch here. So we are going to do the same thing we did before. We are going to knit into the front and then back of that stitch, slip it off the needle. We just made 2 new stitches, and once again we are going to slip this stitch from right hand needle over these 2 stitches, leaving the first stitch on the needle. And using the second stitch, we are going to bind off the next stitch from left hand needle. Here we go. Place it back to your left hand needle. Now I'm going to show you a little trick here. These 2 stitches on the right hand needle, you can just let them slip off your needle. It's going to be easier to knit this way if we just let them be like this. You don't have to worry about them unraveling. If you are still worrying, then you can put a stitch holder on them, but it is not really necessary. So let's continue. So let's put this stitch back onto our right hand needle. Now we have come up to that middle stitch here again. We're going to repeat the same process, knit into the front and then back leg of that stitch, and we're going to slip the stitch from the right hand needle over these 2 new stitches. We are going to keep the first stitch on the right hand needle, and we're going to use the second stitch to bind off the next stitch from left hand needle here. Here we go. Once again, I'm just going to let this stitch here slip off my needle and continue with the next one. Once again, we have this central stitch here, knit into the front, then back of that stitch, slip the stitch from right hand needle over it, leave the first one on your right hand needle, and use the second one to bind off the following stitch. Once again, I'm going to just let this stitch slip off my needle and KFB into the central stitch, slip the stitch from right hand needle over it, leaving the first one on the right hand needle and using the second one to bind off the next stitch. Now we have come to the end of our round, but we're not quite finished here yet, so I suggest you drop this one off so it doesn't make it more difficult than it have to be. Now we have to find our first bind off stitch, which is this one here, and what you do next is you insert your needle under this stitch. It's a little bit difficult for me to see because I'm doing it over the camera, looking into the camera, and it's harder to see what it is. So we find this first stitch, pull a new stitch through, and the last thing you do in this round is you slip the stitch from right hand needle over this newly made stitch. And here we have it. This is the end of our round 4. Here's something you need to pay attention to. So at the end of this round, you just have 6 live stitches like that. And the very last stitch is going to be now the first stitch of the next round. So this will be the first stitch of round 5. And here's a little tip for you. Make sure that you make this stitch quite long, because it tends to tighten up. It doesn't happen to the other stitches, but this one always tightens up a little bit. So you just want to make it as loose as you can. Okay, so round 5. In round 5, we knit 1 stitch, so this last stitch of the previous round is now the first stitch of the new round, and we just knit it. And next, using the backwards loop cast on method, we are going to cast on, let me see how many stitches, 6. 6 stitches. So this is how you do it. 1, 2, you're kind of putting loops onto your needle. 3, 4, 5, 6. Next we are going to pick up the following live stitch that we have here, and we are going to knit this stitch. Did I pick it up all of it? Oh, I did not. So we're going to knit this stitch, simply a knit stitch, and once again we are going to cast on 6 stitches using a backwards loop cast on method. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This was 2 pattern repeats. That's why I'm going to use another needle, because I always have 2 pattern repeats on each needle. So we're picking up the next live stitch here, and we're just going to knit this stitch, and once again we are going to cast on 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pick up the next live stitch. It's this one. Knit this stitch. I'm sorry. I have a little problem here with having to look through my camera and not really looking at my knitting, so it's a little bit confusing for me sometimes. Okay, so we knitted 1, and now 6 cast-ons again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now another 2 repeats are done, so we're moving on to the next needle, and we are going to knit the next stitch, just a plain knit stitch, another 6 cast-ons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's pick up the last live stitch here. Knit the last stitch, and one more time cast on 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this was the end of round, I believe it was round 5. Okay, now we're ready to knit round 6. Okay, so round 6 begins with binding off 3 stitches. So we're going to bind off 3 stitches. Very easy, just like this. 1, 2, and 3. Now you're going to place the stitch from right hand needle back to your left hand needle, and next we are going to make a knitted cast on, and we are going to cast on 2 stitches. If you have never done a knitted cast on before, I'll show you. It's really very easy. All you do is you insert your needle into your stitch and you pull a new stitch through, and without slipping your stitch from left hand needle, you put the new stitch back onto the left hand needle. So here we cast it on one stitch using knitted cast on method, and now we are going to make one more stitch exactly the same way. Knit into the newly made stitch, pull a new stitch through, and place it back to your left hand needle, just like that. It's kind of like a little twist to it. So now we have made two new stitches using a knitted cast on method, and we have one base stitch already on the needle. So next we need to bind off 5 stitches. So once again, binding off is very easy. 1, 1. Well, it's easy when your yarn doesn't split, but when your yarn splits, it's not that easy. And I think I lost one of my stitches, so excuse me here. I am just going to fix all of this because I think I actually lost one of my stitches. So I'm gonna just redo the same what we just did. Cast on 2 stitches, 1 and 2, and now we're going to bind off 5 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. And now you will notice that we kind of got to the place where we have this central stitch that runs all across this place here, always in the same spot. And remember, in the previous round we did the KFB increase into that stitch, and this is exactly what we're going to do here once again. So we're going to knit into the front and then the back leg of that stitch, and what we did before, we slipped the stitch from right hand needle over these 2 new stitches. Once again, we're going to keep this first stitch on the right hand needle, and using the second stitch we just made, and according to the pattern we need to bind off the following 3 stitches. So 1, 2, 2 and 3, almost 3 and 3. So after that we're going to place the stitch back onto the left hand needle, and what we just did, we did 1 repeat of this round. So we did the first repeat of round 6. Once again, I recommend you just slip your needle off the stitch without worrying about it. It's not going anywhere. And what we are going to do next is repeat the same process we just did. So in the pattern, it's this sequence that from star to star you repeat the same sequence. It begins with knitted cast on 2 stitches, then binding off 5. So knitted cast on 2, 1, 2, once again, binding of 5, binding of 5, 1, 1, 2, 3, maybe 3, no, with number 3 doesn't wanna need 3, 4. It's not always like that, and it won't be like that for you. It's only like that for me because I'm looking at my knitting through the camera. So it's really weird. In real life it's much easier, you can trust me on that. So we bound off 5, and we once again came to that central stitch, and here we're going to do the same thing, knitting to the front, then back leg of that stitch, and slipping the stitch from right hand needle over this two. Then once again we're going to leave this stitch on the same needle, on the right hand needle, and using this we are going to bind off 3 stitches, and that will be the end of the second repeat. 1, 2, and 3. So that's the end of second repeat. Next you will be once again casting on 2 knitted cast-ons, binding of 5, KFB into the central stitch, and binding of 3, and you're going to repeat that process. So we did what, 2, you're going to repeat it 3 more times. I'm not going to do all of this here with you because I think you got the idea. So what I'm going to show you next is here in this one I've already completed all but one repeat, and that one I'm going to do here with you again, just to show you what to do at the end of this round. So I have completed 5 repeats, and my next move is knitted cast on 2. It's kind of like the last repeat of the pattern. I'm casting on 2 and binding of 5, binding of 5, 1, 2, maybe 2, no, doesn't want to, 2, okay. This yarn is really splitty. That's why it may be difficult to work. It's not normally like that, and especially when you knit with 3 crochet cotton, it doesn't split like this worsted weight yarn. But this yarn is thicker, and the needles are thicker, so it's easier to show you what I'm doing, but it's a little bit, in a way, harder to do what I wanted. Okay, what's going on here? Let me look at it. Something's preventing me from. Okay, 4 and 5. Okay, now we got to the end of this round, and remember what we did in the round before when we put our needle under the first bound of stitch, which is this one here. So it's here, then pull a new stitch through, and now slip the last stitch over this, and you're done with round 6. Once again, this the last stitch of round 6 is now going to be the first stitch of round 7. So we're gonna put it back on our needle, and in round 7, let me consult my notes. So round 7 is just like round 5, only we're gonna cast on more stitches. So you're going to knit the first stitch, and instead of casting on 6 like before, you will cast on 10 using backwards loop cast on method. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then once again you're gonna put this live stitch back to your needle. You're gonna knit this stitch, and using backwards cast on method, backward loop cast on method, cast on 10 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're going to repeat this 4 more times.